Hi, it's Rebecca. More Anthony Norvell information. I noticed quite a few of you were really interested in hearing about him. One of my metaphysical teachers that I met in New York City many years ago when he was teaching at the Warwick Hotel. And there was a group of us that would go once a week to hear him talk about metaphysics and how to magnetize our thoughts so that we would attract into our experience exactly what we desired. And, looking back on it, I realized that one of the things that he told us was how to write a book with the Chinese method. I mentioned that in my last video, where, you take a book that's a bestseller and you look at how it was formatted, how long it is, what the chapters are covering. And you take that in and realize that if you do a similar book with your own story, it might be a bestseller. And I really took that to heart because I ended up writing my own book, a spiritual memoir called Secrets of a Metaphysical Flight Attendant, which came out in 2014. And I remember when I met Anthony Norvell, he was very, very empowering, very empowering. He transmitted his spiritual power and energy and strong belief that you can do anything that you set your mind to. And he transmitted that to the students that were in the class. When I shook his hand, after he had told the story about the magic circle, he looked at me and he said, "Well, you already have the magic circle." And it was very empowering to hear him say that. And I do think that what he told me in that class had a lot to do with the fact that I ultimately did write my own book. He had a lot of stories of people who came to his classes and transformed their lives. One of them he talked about was a woman who worked as a maid in New York. Now, this was years ago when fur coats were in, and we loved wearing them. And this woman couldn't afford one, but she really wanted a nice mink coat. And after Anthony's classes, she went to work again, and the woman she worked for just happened to be getting rid of this beautiful mink coat that she no longer wanted. She was getting a new one and gave it to the woman. So he would tell stories like that of how things would just all of a sudden show up in your life that you'd been thinking about and desiring if you believed that it would come into your experience. He loved to talk about the old movie stars. I mentioned, how he spoke about Princess Grace going from being a very sad, dejected young woman who was being turned away by her acting coach to going on to become Princess Grace Kelly after he empowered her in the magic circle. And another one he spoke of, Jimmy Durante was one of his favorites. And he talked about how, Jimmy Durante wasn't a terribly handsome man. He had a big nose and, he wasn't one of those romantic looking movie stars, but he became extremely popular. And Anthony Norvell would tell a lot of stories about people who it didn't matter how they looked or even if they had the greatest talent, but it was their mindset, their attitude, their belief in themselves that connected and attract into their experience the successes that they experienced. So he was really good at teaching us how to think a certain way in a positive way, really focus in on it and permeate our minds with positive thoughts so that we would magnetize ourselves in order to attract into our experience the positive experiences that we were visualizing.